Can you imagine a police officer in Sonoma County, California, having to look through a doorway this way? Because I bet it's happened a lot more than once. And this story idea that I'm going to tell you about, it actually did happen. Please listen. Hi, YouTube fans. This is Matt of Post April 6th YouTube channel. I have yet another unwritten story that I'd like to discuss. Now, what you see here is not the whole story written and revised and completed start to finish. No. It's only 3 pages of the story. And the story is about a detective, Sergeant Curtis Hampshire, and a woman named Violet Culverson. She is a woman who was born in 1949. She's tall for a woman. She's 5'8". She's quite bosomy. And what this story is about is she's looking for a valuable item that's in her purse. It's one of those cosmetic mirrors that pops up like this, so she can look at herself and go, and it's missing. And it's missing due to the fact it was stolen. It was snatched, it was swiped out of her purse when her back was turned, or when she stepped away from the shopping cart at the grocery store she was at, or whatever retail store. Okay, and I must warn you, there's some pretty dirty words in here. Yes, because she really started mouthing off to the policeman. And one of the reasons she mouthed off to him because she thought he was faking the fact that he was a police officer when he wasn't. He was a totally legitimate, law-abiding, decent policeman named Detective Sergeant Curtis Hampshire. Hampshire is a more popular last name than people think. So I'll start reading. On Tuesday, April 5th, 1983, Detective Sergeant Curtis Hampshire looked outside his red brick colonial apartment building, located near Bodega Bay, California, and Sonoma County, California. He did this observation at 11:09 p.m. before he adjourned into his bedroom. Actually, it'd be adjourned to have a good night's sleep, so that he could wake up at 7 a.m. so he could resume investigation into a violent purse snatcher who needed to be arrested. As he started looking outside, he could clearly see from his large picture window of his apartment the entire outside and surrounding area is densely foggy and encased in thick clouds of fog. Then he hears a woman gasping and ranting, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Oh, fuck! I lost both of them!" And then he hears a loudly rummage through a duffel bag, a suitcase, a lady's purse, or a tote bag, because he can't see what she is rummaging her hands through. But he's assuming, but common sense tells him that it's either A, a duffel bag, B, a suitcase, C, a lady's purse, or the fourth one would be a tote bag. And then he hears this gross profanity. Fuck! 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 And then he can hear footsteps. After the sound travel takes full effect, then within 5 seconds, he hears her walking more closely to his apartment building. And then that in itself makes it quite clear. He will see her in person any second. A half of a second later, he clearly sees her. She is a tall, blonde-headed, attractive woman, wearing a orange, thick, formal sweater, nice, light blue-colored designer jeans, and a yellowish boat sneaker shoes. Okay, it's the type of shoes, but they have a little bit more flair to them that Alice, the housekeeper, would have, who was the housekeeper in Brady Bunch, the popular TV series. Okay, so I'll continue reading. So they're yellowish boat sneaker shoes with brownish shoelaces, because back then, even though they weren't real common, if you went to the right store, you could get brown women's shoelaces that gave the shoes a lot of flair. You know, make you really stand out and look quite a nice dresser, well-dressed woman. Her face is red, and she is gritting her teeth and looks quite angry. She's about like that. She looks quite angry and betrayed. She then quickly examines her denim tote bag, because that's the item that she actually has on her person that he heard her rummaging her hand through. Okay. With white strap handles. As she briskly moves all personal contents and throws all few items out of the tote bag to an area near the pedestrian designated sidewalk. And then, after she empties 95% of her personal effects, she squats down on her knees and gasps of breath like, because she's breathing heavy. And just before she is finished replenishing her tote bag, Curtis hears her make obscene vocal expressions and loudly shouts these words in a psychotic tone. I bet that old fat ass guy named Bubba, who has too many warts on his face, stole my oyster bronze mirror and silver spoon baby spoon out of my fucking purse when I was not looking. Curtis suddenly steps back away from the large picture window so he cannot be seen inside the apartment, and steps back however it was soon to be known to him that he did not step back quickly enough. Then he sees her walking in an angry, confrontational manner toward the front lawn of the apartment building, and he hears her shout, "Hey! Hey! Hey! Why were you spying on me? You sick-ass woman stucker!" Curtis knows she will enter the apartment building in a matter of seconds. He has to do what I'm about to discuss because he's really worried that she might have a handgun concealed somewhere on her body, or a blunt instrument. Yeah. His .45 has a 8-inch barrel slide and a pistol-gripped Safari African-American wooded contour grips. The old .45 is a custom-made pistol, and he returns it to his shoulder holster and then checks his belt for handcuffs. And then he hears her walking up the flight of stairs, and he checks his special TWA vinyl leather gym bag for a ski mask. He sees on an instant, and he hears a loud knock, knock, knock on the door. Because, I mean, she's knocking on the door. I'm going to demonstrate. She's knocking on the door about like that. Yep. She's full of rage. And he quickly applies on his back his black ski mask with dark red stripes on the eyes and the mouth portals. And he hears her shout, because she says the MF word, I don't think I better say that one. And she says, "You better answer the door, or I will call the FBI and have your sick ass arrested." I mean, she talks about like that. Then he walks toward the door, and is boldly walking with his right hand over his .45 automatic pistol. And he hears her say more angrily, "Open the expletive door!" I don't want to have that word in this story description too much. Curtis cautiously puts his left hand on the doorknob and turns it and cracks open the door. And immediately her eyes open wide and she starts gasping in tremendous fear. And then she asks, "Are you a gangster or something?" And Curtis responds in a really cold monotone, "No. I am no gangster." Then, with her eyes open wide in fear, she asks, What kind of a guy are you? If you're no gangster." Here is Curtis's truthful response. I'm a guy who puts criminals away in jail for a long ass time. And then she responds by saying this. Oh, you are a prosecutor for the Sonoma County District Attorney's Office, right? Sergeant Hampshire responds by saying this in a colder monotone. I was not spying on you. I wanted to take a look outside because I hear it was going to be really foggy outside. Soon after I drew the curtains back and I saw the weather condition, I hear you gasp and chant in a manner that was definitely antics of agitation, because you could not find an item that was near and dear to you. That's the best cold monotone I can do. Then the orange-clothed lady drops her tote bag and then puts both of her hands and arms above her waist and says, "Then, what did you notice?" Well, I'm not going to say the words again, but he recants what she said, and he recants that she made an accusation that I bet that old fat-ass guy named Bubba, who has too many warts on his face, stole my oyster bronze mirror and silver spoon. And here, okay, I'll continue reading. Then the woman interrupts. Am I going to county jail for that statement I made or something? And Sergeant Hampshire responds as he points his right index finger at her. You keep mouthing up to me like that. You are going to spend over a year in a California state prison for women. And then she goes, "Why?" The lady asks in a tone of arrogance. Actually, she would probably sound like this. "Why?" Something like that. She'd have that type of gesture and body language. Then Curtis blinks his eyes and rolls his eyes, and then reaches back into his right back pocket of his dark brown polyester dress pants and extracts his gold shield Sonoma County Detective Sergeant badge and shows her the badge. And then a woman actually named Violet Culverson, a white Caucasian who is 5'8" and weighs 140 pounds and was born in Story, Iowa. Because see, she wasn't born in California or in Bodega Bay or somewhere in Northern California. That's one of the more famous cities. She was actually born in Story, Iowa. Because Story, Iowa actually exists. I've looked this up. Okay, so it says that she was born on April 10th, 1949. So let me stop reading the story really quick. If this woman were alive today, she would be 75, almost 76 years old. or if this woman were an actual real person with this name. That's she'd be 75, almost 76. So anyways, I'll keep reading. And a busty woman, well, I'm not going to say the bra size because I've already talked about that, reacts to seeing his police badge by opening his eyes real wide and then shouts, because this is her shouting, not his, "You're a cop? A detective sergeant?" Yep, this is what Sergeant Hampshire says. Yep, I've been a police patrolman for 3 years and a police detective for 8 years. If you want to avoid being placed under arrest for verbally harassing me, a police detective, come inside my apartment and let me ask you a few questions. Violet complies and says in a scared but polite voice, "All right, I will cooperate if you take your ski mask off. And I'll tell you, and tell me your name." Then Sergeant Hampshire opens up the front door wide enough for her to walk into his apartment and then says, "Okay, I will take my mask off as long as you answer my questions. You will get to walk home in just a few minutes. And I will tell you my full name." Then Violet walks into the apartment and then stands still despite holding her precious tote bag. "Okay, what will we do next?" Then Sergeant Curtis Hampshire removes his ski mask and then scratches his bald head. And the first thing Violet notices is that he has a distinct mustache and lamb chop sideburns. Actually, it's going to be more mutton chops. They're not going to be as thick here. They're going to be thick. They're going to be fairly thin. They're going to stop right about here. And then he says, "Okay, have a seat on my couch and I will start the questions in just a couple of minutes." Then Curtis turns around and reaches down to his briefcase and opens up and extracts a 2-ply form and gets a disposable pen out of his wooden pen holder. You know, it would be something circular like this that would be on a little desk in his apartment. And despite Violet feeling nervous, Curtis walked over to the couch and sits down and starts asking questions. Okay, what happens? What he does is he gets her name, her formal address, and he writes down her driver's license number, because she drives, but right now the car she has is broke down, and the motor is being totally rebuilt because she really threw a rod in a couple of days after St. Patrick's Day of 1983. Actually, more like about 5 days after St. Patrick's Day of 1983. And the type of Opel car that she has, the mechanic that she's going through, because she's got the money to do this, the crankshaft, the camshaft, and the and the piston rings are going to be sent from someplace overseas. And it's going to take a week. It's going to take at least 10 days to get to it. Or, excuse me, at least 7 to 10 days, or as much as 2 weeks to get from where it is overseas into Northern California. And then what they do is there's at least 3 or 4 days before they can get to the rest of rebuilding the engine and finish it, because they got other work to do, because they're popular, and they can't just make people wait 2 or 3 days for an oil change and replacing a fan belt or whatever work they have to do, the mechanics have to do for other customers. And then he gets a description thoroughly of the guy she calls Bubba. And after the report is done, she puts her hands over her eyes and she starts to cry. And the detective is careful, because he doesn't want to be at his desk, whether it would be a small office or one of those what's called, an open area where there's like 3 or 4 desks, or in an area that would be called partitioned. Detective desk area. And he just pats her on the shoulder, and he's really nice, and he makes sure to just let her take as many Kleenexes as she likes, and she gets herself together, and she says, can I have a snack? And he says, I'd really like to help you, but I'm not allowed to do that. Even though I'm off duty, I can get in very big trouble. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And then she says, okay, I only got $2 or $3 in cash on me, and my credit card payment has not gone through yet. What can you do about me getting a ride home, because I'm 4 miles over that way? Hold on. Okay, I have done research, and the nearest town that would be near Bodega Bay would be Occidental. That would be the closest one. I guess the mileage of the jurisdictional geographic infrastructure of Bodega, California, is a little larger than some people think, or at least that's the information I'm getting. So I think what would actually happen is she asks to use his phone, and she says, okay, but it's local phone calls, no long distance, or I'm really going to be upset. And then she starts out, he says, I told you no long distance. He says, okay, I tell you what, why don't I say the number and you can dial it? He says, yeah. Most people wouldn't be that cooperative. Okay, tell me. And it's a I don't know for sure, but I think it might be a 831 area code phone number, or a 707 area code phone number, something like that. It would be the type of phone number that would be that would fall in line with the area code of Bodega Bay. Okay, so He dials the number, and he's on the phone. She lets it ring for 10 rings, and she says, wait a minute, let it ring for 5 more rings, then I'll hang up. And then on the 14th ring, the woman answers. It's a good friend of hers. And the good friend says, where are you? And he says, I'm at the Red Brick Colonial Inn, or the Colonial Apartment Building in Bodega. And she says, oh yeah, I know where that is. And she says, I'll meet you outside. And then her friend says, why are you there? I said, I'm not allowed to discuss it. And she says, why? I'm under a gag order. Can't talk about it. And he looks, and she looks over at the detective, and the detective smiles and goes like that. And she says, okay, I hope nothing bad's not going to happen here. She says, nope, you're going to be totally safe. It's just I got to wait outside, or the person who I'm meeting with has said that if you come to his apartment, he's going to be very upset. He's really going to throw a conniption fit. And the detective kind of goes about like that. And then what happens is before the conversation ends, Violet and the friend named Linda agree that she will be there within 20 minutes. So then what happens is she says to him, she says, okay, he's going to be here in 20 minutes. What would you like me to do? He says, well, I'm really not supposed to do this, but because you've been through so much today, you can stay in here for 10 more minutes. But after 10 more minutes, you got to go. You got to go wait out in front by the sidewalk. I think that's more than fair. He says, yeah, you're right. And she says, can I have a glass of water? And he goes, yeah, I can probably allow that to happen. He says, hold on. And he pours it from the faucet. He says, here you go. And then after 3 minutes, he says, can I use your bathroom? And he says, okay, but make it quick. And she's out in about a minute and a half. And then when it's 10 minutes, he says, okay, time's up. It's 10 minutes. He says, okay, I'll grab my stuff and I'll go. He says, thank you, officer, for what you did. And they shook hands, and he gives her his business card. He says, call me if you need to give me any other information, and we're going to look for this Bubba guy, because I have a strong hunch that what you suspected is probably accurate. And then she leaves the apartment. She goes downstairs, and she makes sure to walk in a normal way and not make that boom 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 sound. And she waits out in front. And she is out there for roughly about 8.5 minutes. She was running a little early because she didn't have the traffic congested traffic restrictions. She didn't have to stop for the red light as often. And she didn't have to wait for a bunch of cars to cross when she's driving this way and cars going this way. You know, this way or that way. And she drives up, and as she's getting in the car, it's the detective sergeant's job. He has a right to do this. He peeks back. Let's pretend this is a curtain. He looks through about this much to see her, and she's not bothered by that. She knows that's his job. And they drive in the car, and Linda says, "So what's happened?" He said, "Linda, I'd really like to tell you, but I can't." She says, "What did you do?" "Hey, look, it wasn't a cowgirl situation, I can tell you that much. But I really threw a fit because my bronze..." No, wait a minute. "My oyster bronze mirror is missing." And Linda goes, "What? It's missing?" And she's and Violet says, "Linda, it's more than that. My baby spoon is missing." She goes, "Oh my God! Both of those items were stolen?" And then all of a sudden, ah! Linda slammed on the brakes and the car was coming by. You know, she got a little bit distracted. And then they, and then she says, "Okay, well, is he with the police?" And she says, "I'm really not supposed to confirm this, but yes." "What did he do?" "He took a brief report, and he's going to have that investigated. I can't tell you anything more." She goes, "Linda, look, me even telling you this much, he could prosecute me. I'm not supposed to even acknowledge the fact that he was a policeman. I could wind up in really big trouble." She says, "Yeah, you're right. I've heard those Sonoma cops can get pretty tough. Okay, I won't tell anybody about this. I'm sorry this happened." And then probably a distance of at least 3 to 4 miles, and it wouldn't be this way, north-south. It would be probably east, this way, a little further inland from the water, would be Violet's little house. Because the type of house that she lives in is not the smallest, but it's still pretty small. It's about 870 to 900 square feet. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. It's got a small kitchen. And there is a small backyard, and I mean small. And the house, let's see, this is 1983. The house probably only set her back $81,000. I mean, after all, we're talking about Bodega Bay, 1983. That same house now, and I kid you not, is at least $740,000, or if not that, it could be this much. $925,000. $925,000. I'm sure all of you know this, but I'll say this anyways. $925,000 is this close to $1 million. This close. Okay. So she gets to the house, and you know, they're Violet is straight is a straight arrow, and they just hug, and then she goes into her house, and she watches some TV and tries to just forget about it. And the next day, she gets up, about 8 a.m., showers, and probably shaves herself right here, and shaves her legs while she's in the tub, and makes breakfast, and does other little things that you need to do before you go to work. And a coworker gets her a ride to a hotel where she is a front desk supervisor. Yeah. What name the hotel would be, I don't know. It's probably got something Bay in the name, is what I would think. And it's the type of hotel that only has about 80 units. It's not really big time. But she gets paid decent money for it. She probably gets paid at least, $11 an hour, I would think. $11 an hour had a hell of a lot more buying power then than now. I know that. $11 an hour back then was the equivalency of earning over $24 an hour now. Or $24 an hour, or more than $24, depending on where you're living and the cost of groceries and merchandise and all the things you buy. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the story. No, there's one other thing that happens, and I'll mention this before the story, the vlog ends. 2 weeks later, after she got her car back, and she paid the automotive repair company, or I say automotive repair shop, duh. She pays them because she has the money, and she has about $2,000 in savings. She pays them $879 to thoroughly rebuild that Opel engine, and it's really running like a champ. It's got a really good, the motor's got a really good sound to it, and they blow out the exhaust, and they replace some of the piping that goes from the manifold to the muffler, and they do, you know, they blow out and they get all the crud out of there, and they let it sit overnight before they run that car. And Detective Sergeant Hampshire calls her on a Saturday morning at about 10:30, and he informs her that the guy named Bubba is actually Harold Joseph Dillman, Dillman. And he has several warrants from 3 different states out against him. And he's going to jail. Big time. He is going to do, after the 3 states work something out that is within the interstate laws or federal laws, or whatever, he's going to go to jail for 8 years. He's going to be, he's taken off the streets, so no more purse snatching. No more. It's going to stop. Well, I mean, it's not going to stop all over the United States, but with him being taken off the streets, it's definitely going to help the crime rate nationwide. Well, that's the end of this vlog now. Thank you, everyone. And have a good evening. And have a good day. Bye-bye.